Sargon of Akkad, also known as the Great, made history as the founder of the first truly centralized empire, which spanned vast regions of the Middle East. While his military achievements are widely recognized, they are only a part of his legacy. Sargon was not only an exceptional commander who united diverse peoples under one rule, but also a skilled politician who effectively managed his expansive state. Beyond his conquests, his decisions regarding his family marked a bold departure from prevailing social norms. By transcending traditional patterns, he became one of the most intriguing fathers of his time. What many may not know is that Sargon's daughter, Enheduanna, was not only his child but also a remarkable historical figure. She was the first known poet whose works have survived through the centuries, and her influence on the religious and political life of Akkad was invaluable. As a high priestess, Enheduanna composed numerous hymns dedicated to the gods, which not only reinforced the spiritual legitimacy of Sargon's rule, but also helped solidify the ideological foundation of his empire. Through her, religion and politics in Akkad became inseparably intertwined, and in an era dominated by men, she emerged as a symbol of female power and influence. By looking at his family decisions, Sargon demonstrated that empire building was not just about military conquests, but also about the courage to break societal norms and reshape social hierarchies in a more egalitarian way. In this new vision of family, Enheduanna was not just the daughter of a great ruler, but one of the most significant figures of her time, shaping the course of literary and political history in the ancient world. After conquering the city of Sargon of Akkad took steps that, from the perspective of his time, were nothing short of shocking. Maintaining control over such a vast territory was no easy task, especially since the people of Sumer were accustomed to local rulers governing individual city-states. A key element legitimizing their rule was the belief that it stemmed from divine appointment. The king, as a representative of the gods on earth, possessed a celestial right to rule. For Sargon, who sought to maintain control over his sprawling empire, it was essential to find a way for his new subjects to accept his legitimacy. The Sumerians believed that the peoples of Mesopotamia, known as the black-headed ones, were the property of the gods, and that their fates were determined by divine will. To secure his rule, Sargon made a groundbreaking decision in the history of the ancient Near East. Instead of entrusting power solely to men, he chose to delegate a portion of his authority to his daughter, Enheduanna. This was the first known instance in which a woman was recognized as capable of governance and given an official position of power. Although there is an enigmatic record of a Sumerian woman who became king, no definitive evidence or additional sources confirm this claim. Meanwhile, Sargon's decision to entrust Enheduanna with significant responsibilities was a milestone, not only for his empire, but also for the role of women in society. As Sargon's daughter, Enheduanna was granted divine legitimacy to rule, giving her authority both religious and political significance. Delegating part of his power to his daughter not only strengthened Sargon's position, but also marked a pivotal moment in the history of the ancient Near East. By serving as a high priestess and poet, Enheduanna became one of the most influential spiritual leaders of her time. Through this act, Sargon not only introduced a new dimension to governance, but also paved the way for women to hold prominent positions in society, significantly shaping the development of Mesopotamia. Let's return to Sargon's daughter, Enheduanna, who, after her father's conquest of assumed an extremely important and prestigious role. She was appointed the high priestess of the highest and most significant position she could attain in the territories conquered by Sargon. This role not only carried immense religious power, but also held great political significance. For the Sumerians, authority was not something inherited by birth, as in many other societies, but rather granted through a divine mandate. Kings and priests were believed to be chosen by the gods, who bestowed upon them the right to rule. When Enheduanna was consecrated as high priestess, it signified to her subjects that she had divine approval for her rule. This allowed her to issue orders, govern the city, and shape both its religious and social life. It is essential to highlight that in southern Mesopotamia, the temple was the central hub of political and economic life. Temples were the primary storehouses of goods, with priests managing the distribution of essential resources such as food, beer, and other daily necessities. People worked for the temple, which played a key role in the organization of society. Thus, governing such an institution required not only religious knowledge, but also administrative, financial, and political skills. As high priestess, Enheduanna needed extensive knowledge and capabilities to effectively manage both the city and the temple. Overseeing such a complex institution required literacy, arithmetic proficiency, and the ability to make strategic political decisions. Moreover, despite her divine mandate, Enheduanna remained a representative of the occupying power, placing her in a challenging position that demanded both political acumen and confidence. According to her own accounts, despite initial difficulties and setbacks, Enheduanna managed to suppress a rebellion against the Akkadians that erupted after her father's death. A crucial factor in her success was the support of Inanna, the goddess to whom Enheduanna was particularly devoted. With the backing of this deity, she overcame opposition and maintained her authority. Enheduanna's story is a testament to her extraordinary leadership skills and strength of character, demonstrating that a woman could effectively rule in an era dominated by male power. The fact that Enheduanna received such a comprehensive education is truly exceptional, both in the context of her era and the region. Unlike Egyptian women who had some access to education, women in Mesopotamia had no basic rights that we consider fundamental today. In Sumerian writing schools, only boys were educated, preparing them for future administrative roles. This means that Sargon recognized his daughter's exceptional potential long before he entrusted her with power in Ur. Enheduanna was more than just the daughter of a great ruler. She possessed intellectual and religious abilities that set her apart from other women of her time. Sargon saw in her not only someone destined to fulfill the traditional role of a mother to his grandchildren, a weaver, or a priestess limited to temple rituals, but also a person capable of governing and making significant decisions. This is quite surprising, considering that for most of his life, Sargon focused primarily on wars and conquests, showing little interest in the development of culture or the arts. His main goal was the consolidation of military power. Nevertheless, in the case of his daughter, he made an exception and allowed her to acquire knowledge that was then reserved mainly for men. Perhaps this was a response to the unique circumstances of managing a vast empire, which required not only military strength, but also administrative and intellectual skills. Although Sargon was initially not particularly interested in culture, he decided to combine Akkad's military power with the advanced civilization of Sumer, whose culture, religion, and literacy were highly developed. Entrusting Enheduanna with such an important role was a crucial element of his policy. This is also a groundbreaking moment in Mesopotamian history, the first instance in which a woman had the opportunity to actively participate in public life, exercise power, and influence the fate of a state at a time when most women were confined to traditional roles. Sargon's actions in this case demonstrate that he recognized the value of education and knowledge and fully acknowledged his daughter's abilities, which went beyond the roles traditionally assigned to women in society. Certain clues that may shed light on Sargon's attitude toward his daughter come from his relationship with the goddess Ishtar, Inanna. Throughout his life, he repeatedly claimed that it was this goddess who granted him power and supported him in his conquests of Mesopotamia. His strong ties to divine figures, particularly Ishtar, may indicate his deep respect for female rulers, both divine and human. Sargon frequently emphasized that his successes were the result of the divine blessing of this powerful goddess, which suggests his recognition of female authority. In the autobiographical tablets that have been found, Sargon explicitly mentions his mother, highlighting her high social status, but he omits any reference to his father. This is surprising, as he could have easily constructed his lineage in a way that emphasized a divine ancestry or some royal heritage. Instead, Sargon consciously chose to attribute significance to his mother, which may suggest his unconventional approach to the role of women in society. In this way, he portrayed his mother as an influential figure, rather than just a traditional mother whose primary role was to bear children. Another surprising decision was his choice of the goddess Ishtar as the patron deity of Agade, instead of the traditional god of war. Rather than seeking protection from a typical war deity, Sargon chose Inanna, who had not previously been seen as a warrior goddess in Sumerian myths. He reshaped her archetype, assigning her the characteristics of a warrior. This suggests that Sargon had a particular fascination with powerful, dominant female figures. Ishtar became a symbol of strength and authority for him, one with whom he chose to identify. Sargon also used unusual phrasing in his accounts, such as, "Ishtar has bestowed her love upon me," which is quite unorthodox in the context of that era. Unlike other rulers such as Gilgamesh, who often mentioned their relationships with priestesses disguised as goddesses, Sargon never spoke of physically possessing Ishtar. Instead, he emphasized her power and decisiveness, underscoring her role as a strong, dominant figure whose support was crucial to his success. From a psychological perspective, despite his brutality and imperial ambitions, Sargon exhibited a clear fascination with female rulers and women who held dominant roles. This fascination may have been a key reason why he allowed his daughter, Enheduanna, to receive an education that was almost exclusively reserved for men at the time. He taught her writing, reading, and other administrative skills essential for managing a vast empire. For this reason, Sargon entrusted her with the highly significant role of High Priestess of Ur, making her not only a symbol of power, but also an active participant in political and religious life. Enheduanna became not just a figure representing his ambitions, but also someone who fully realized them, exercising power in a way that went beyond the traditional roles assigned to women in her time. Enheduanna was most likely given a completely different name at birth, the name Enheduanna, which she adopted upon assuming the role of High Priestess, can be translated as divine ornament of the heavens. This name was bestowed upon her when she took charge of one of the most important temples in Mesopotamia, serving as a symbolic confirmation of her exceptional status. A significant detail is the prefix "en", which in ancient times was reserved only for rulers before secular and religious authority became separate. This implies that Enheduanna was already regarded as equal to great rulers, even though her role was different at first glance. She was a priestess, not a warrior. Enheduanna also gained fame as a literary figure. She is the first known woman to sign her name to a literary work, and more importantly, the first person in history to claim authorship of their own writing. Before her, no one had explicitly attributed authorship in this way, making her a pioneer of literature, in the sense we understand it today. This bold act of claiming authorship had a profound impact on the future of literature, as her works laid the foundation upon which later authors built. As a high priestess, Enheduanna composed numerous hymns, prayers, and songs in honor of Sumerian gods. These writings were filled with deep emotion and spiritual intensity, making them unique in both form and content. Creating such literature required not only exceptional linguistic skills, but also proficiency in multiple languages, as Enheduanna had been fluent in Akkadian, the administrative language of the time, since childhood. Akkadian became the primary means of communication across the region, allowing her works to reach a broad audience. Interestingly, Enheduanna frequently and vividly described the physical attributes of the goddess Inanna, sometimes in highly erotic terms. These portrayals suggest her personal fascination with the goddess, and her willingness to challenge established norms and traditions to express her independence and understanding of power. From this perspective, her works were not only acts of devotion to the gods, but also a manifesto of her own strength and autonomy. Perhaps she sought to convey the idea that a woman should be strong, independent, and capable of wielding power on equal footing with men. It is worth noting that through her actions and literary works, Enheduanna not only transcended the traditional roles assigned to women, but also, with the support of her father, became one of the most influential figures in ancient Mesopotamia. Unlike other women who were confined to the roles of wives, mothers, or priestesses, Enheduanna refused to be relegated to the position of a political ally's wife. Through her education, courage, and determination, she achieved a status comparable to that of many men of her time. In conclusion, the relationship between Sargon of Akkad and his daughter Enheduanna is an absolute anomaly in Mesopotamian history. Despite being known for his military ambitions, Sargon demonstrated remarkable wisdom and vision by recognizing his daughter's potential and enabling her to receive an education and hold a position that was typically reserved for men. In doing so, he not only built a powerful empire, but also contributed to redefining the role of women in society. As the first known literary author, Enheduanna became a symbol of extraordinary female strength and independence in ancient Mesopotamia.